Hi, I'm Deniece. When I look back, the first thing that would have come to mind when I heard gym class was fun.
Welcome to Gym Shorts, a podcast by Ophea. We're a Canadian charity that prioritizes student health, well-being, and belonging in classrooms, schools, and communities. For over 100 years, we've been working to make gym class every student's favorite part of their day. Through this podcast, we explore the powerful and personal stories behind our earliest experiences with health and physical education. In each episode, we speak with guests about experiences from school that shaped their future relationship with physical activity and well-being. These stories offer honest reflections on how our past informs the present and how we can all work together to create happier, healthier, and more inclusive futures for all students. Now, let's get into today's story. Hi, I'm Tammy Shubat, Chief Strategy Officer at Ophea. Before we begin, a quick note. This episode may contain discussions about bullying or other negative school experiences that may be upsetting or triggering for some listeners. We encourage you to take care while listening and pause if you need to. With this in mind, let's begin today's conversation. Meet Deniece, D for short, a teacher, a coach, and an academic whose experience with physical activity was often a battle between participation and performance. As a kid, Dee loved being active, but starting out at a private school, she didn't always have a chance to participate in gym class, or even have access to a gym, for that matter.
I grew up in Kitchener-Waterloo, and I have 3 older brothers who, by the time they went through the public school system and had some difficulties, as we were one of few Black families there, the boys had a tough time, so my mother sent me to a private school. But we did not have a gymnasium, and I actually don't remember having a phys ed class.
Once she entered the public school system, Dee had unlimited opportunities to be active. And for a student with natural athletic ability, she quickly found herself right at home.
Leaving the private school and going to public school was, I want to say, a little bit liberating, and I was able to explore phys ed class and what it was like to have structured time and learn new skills: volleyball, basketball, track, cross country, and competing on school teams. So I'd never been on a school team before, and starting to really explore hurdling at that time and making it to the county championships and being really excited about that.
As she transitioned into high school, Dee's passion for physical activity continued. She found supportive teachers, success in track and field, and a community of athletes who quickly embraced her and her talent.
High school phys ed was a blast. My teachers were pretty fantastic. You could talk to them. They were supportive. They encouraged me to go out for teams. I began to, continue with track and field outside of high school. And so I think is the case when people are engaged in those, you do high school sports, which I loved. And then I would go to my track club and work on my skills there. And I had a little bit of a track fam, as we like to call it. So at the end of 1 year of high school, my friend would say, I stole athlete of the year right out from under her nose, but I wasn't even thinking of it like that. It was just, I really had a great time playing all these sports and moving my body.
It wasn't long before Dee's hard work took her to the provincial championships and resulted in even more accolades. But for Dee, she was just happy to compete.
My brother would say I was the golden child. Track and field, I was my first year in grade 9, I made it to Ophea. I think that was supposed to be really cool, and it was, but I was just happy I got to still keep going. My season wasn't finished yet. So after that, I made it to Ophea every year. Triple gold, I think a couple of those years, nationals and some junior teams.
But with this success came a new identity. Dee was now a track star, a label that sometimes felt uncomfortable to embrace.
It was definitely a part of who I was or who I am, maybe, I guess as a kid, it was who I was. People would say, "Oh, you're the track star." I was like, not a star, but yes, I run track. So I think perhaps in my own way, I was trying to deflect and prepare for that. That was my life. We would drive to Windsor, we would drive to London, we would go to Buffalo, we would go to March Break Camp in Florida. And so synonymous with me, Dee, was athletics, track and field.
With a scholarship to a prestigious university on the line, Dee felt overwhelmed and not quite prepared for what was next and how to navigate this uncharted territory.
If I could run fast enough, I could get a scholarship and have my education paid for. And I ended up going to a great school. I went to Syracuse University. I don't know that I fully understood. Actually, I know I didn't fully understand that process. So I think as an athlete, it would have been nice to have a little bit more guidance. I think here is where I would say that having immigrant parents really came to light for me, because they just defaulted to what coach would say or what your high school teacher would say. At the end of, high school, so 17, 18, 19, going through this process of making these decisions was overwhelming.
While an injury derailed her first year, Dee entered her second year with a renewed focus and determination, and it showed.
In my second year, I was an All-American, which means you are in the top 8 in the country. In 1999, I also made it to the nationals again, but I didn't make the finals. And so the time that I needed to chase was fast enough for me that I made the Canadian team for the Pan American Games. And that was my personal best. I don't know if I needed glasses because I didn't recognize the time that I ran. And that was really, I think, one of the highlights of my career.
But as the competition intensified, and with a chance at the Olympics on the horizon, Dee just missed the mark. And just like that, it was over. The track star was left at a personal crossroads.
Nearing the end, it becomes the end. It's the end of that story. The 2000 Olympics are in Sydney, Australia. And in 1996, the World Juniors were in Australia, so they were already preparing. And, a handful of us were there, and the goal was to be back there in 2000 competing. And some of my friends made it back there. So the end of university was me crying on the Princeton track. And I think it was an emotional, I am super tired. It was my last chance to run the time that I needed to make nationals a third year in a row, and I missed it.
Dee was left with a lot of questions, but not a lot of answers. But she knew she liked to learn, and she liked school. And that created a path towards a career in education.
I tried to make it happen, but it wasn't happening. So the 2000 Olympics came and went, and you hope for 2004, but there's absolutely no way that's going to happen when you're living the schedule that you're living. And so I think deep down, I started to figure out, what is it that you're going to do with yourself? And I didn't really have an answer, but I like learning. So I'll get my teaching certification and hopefully figure it out by then.
Now a full-time teacher, Dee wanted to ensure her practice did not leave anyone out. After years spent being defined by her achievements on the track, she wanted to make sure she understood her students on a deeper, less superficial level.
I really think that as a teacher, having been in multiple worlds, that's what I bring to my practice, is a sense of how would the kid who doesn't love a sport, or how would the kid who is really good at a sport, or how would the student who doesn't speak English very well, we all have something. And so for me, as an educator, it's really just, I want people to feel good in their bodies, feel good in moving. And we don't know the reasons why they may or may not. You don't know my story. And so I think just trying to figure out where or what makes people tick is something that I took away from teaching and into my teaching practice, like teachers college. But I think that was also a direct result for myself. For me, of kind of not knowing what really made me tick in some ways. So I was really good at this thing. I got to do a lot of things, but you're still trying to figure out that I like because I like them, or do I like them because I'm good at them? And there's a very kind of big distinction. So sometimes they overlap. But I also didn't have time to explore a lot of other things. So a treat for us was, yeah, you got to play basketball because coach said you could play basketball. But I knew that I liked basketball because I did it in high school. So yeah, I think if I were to, sort of sum that up a little bit more succinctly, is that my teaching, who I am impacts my teaching because there are multiple ways in which I felt included and multiple ways in which I felt excluded. And so I try and look for the ways that I can sort of reach kids in different ways.
Through all of her achievements and accomplishments and experiences, Dee's lesson for teachers ultimately comes down to the real purpose of physical activity.
I'm going to take this one for my brother, which is have fun with it. Have fun with it, because at the end of the day, I don't know that it's that serious, and I don't mean that in a diminishing way, but have fun with it because, the plan is how do we have people move for life and enjoy that, and value other forms of movement. So be curious, ask what kids like, ask what the students like, and then have fun with it. So take away the competitive edge if it's something that they're always experiencing, or add a little bit of a challenge if you know that student's story, but just find ways to let everyone play.
Ophea's Stop Start Consider poster series helps educators rethink health and physical education practices so that every student feels safe, included, and valued. Developed with input from youth with lived experience, these posters highlight common practices that might unintentionally harm marginalized students. They also offer practical alternatives and next steps that will help spark change in classrooms and gyms. We currently have posters on disrupting anti-Black racism, disability-centered movement, gender inclusivity, and honoring Indigenous cultures. Want to start conversations in your school community about equity and inclusion? Download and print the free poster series from the link in the show notes. Before we begin, I did want to clarify for our listeners that Dee and I are married, and we also raise a daughter together. I just wanted you all to keep that in mind as you listen to our chat. So Dee, as you know, whenever I listen to stories, I always have a lot of questions. But one of the things that really stood out for me in your story, Dee, was this idea of these awards and all of this recognition sort of being this currency that really defined you and defined who you were, sort of Deniece, like Dee, the athlete. Can you tell me what you think about awards and how we use them?
Whoa. It's a great
Did
question.
I stump you?
You may have stumped me for a minute.
Mm.
I think that there can be value in awards for folks who may not be celebrated. Again, we need to appreciate and understand it's the complexity of our role as educators. There's so much more to the student than just the student sitting in front of you. So some people are not going to be recognized, praised, valued for the things that they do. I think if we are always only celebrating the end product, and not throughout the process, then awards can be a bit problematic. And, look at award shows, best supporting actress, best costume, best this, best that. And so having been in the homeroom, that's where I got some of those ideas where, like the yearbook, most likely to XYZ, we're going to celebrate that. So I do think awards are helpful for motivation, but I also think we need to change up the variety, like make it a variety of awards.
The entire time you were telling us about all of the successes you were experiencing as an athlete, and the stakes were getting higher and that trajectory was growing and growing, I kept wanting to ask whether anyone ever checked in with you, or if you would wish someone had asked you, is this still fun for you?
I think even if somebody checked in, I probably wouldn't have known how to answer that.
Yeah.
I think it's fun when you get to celebrate with your teammates. I think it's fun when you're performing well. I mean, I took a summer off and didn't compete. I worked at Olympia Sports Camp and felt like it was the most amazing experience because I had never had a summer that didn't involve track and field. I think I had to remember how to have fun, and that would have been the reason why I went and took a summer off, is because I stopped having some fun.
And knowing you, and I don't want to necessarily put words in your mouth, but do you feel now at this age and stage in your life, you're not just Deniece the athlete, you're not Deniece the valedictorian, you're not Deniece the first child of an immigrant family to go to school, but has to background different sides of herself to be able to shine. But now, can you bring all of yourself and all the sides of your identity to this new chapter?
I will say yes. I will say yes. I think my experience teaching this past year was, and throughout my career, everybody's different, but you can see my blackness, how I choose to present, can change. I can grow my hair, cut my hair. You can read me however you want to read me. Sometimes I'm a sir. But I would say, yes, I can be me, because there are times where you have to suss out as an educator, how much of me am I bringing? And I think that I've hidden parts of myself in the classroom, especially in a high school, where I don't know that people need to know if I'm queer or not. And when I'm in like a predominantly Black high school, I know the background that these folks are coming from. So I want to establish this is who I am as a human before you judge me in other ways. But I also want to create space for others who have identities that they might not be sure of or struggling with or are very confident in, and know that they have allies. So you don't have to be queer, but you could be an ally as well. And I want folks to know that that's a part of that piece that I bring. So PhD, curriculum pedagogy, I think I get to be me a little bit more, but I also want to bring all of me back to the classroom as well, or wherever I am.
When you said yes, when I asked that question, I smiled, but I also shed a tear, because I felt that perhaps for me, that felt like bigger than a gold medal. So congrats.
Hey, thank you. We all win. Yeah, we win in different ways, and I do appreciate that, because you have been along on this journey as well. So it's greatly appreciated. You can cry, I won't.
You cried earlier, I saw you. So I'm curious, because when we have, younger and incoming teachers on the show, we ask them questions about what they're thinking about for their teaching practice. But you said you're old. I would say you're seasoned. You've been around for a little while. And so you've seen a lot of things happen in classrooms. You saw things happen in classrooms as you were a student. And you've seen sort of like multiple decades of pedagogy and policy in classrooms. What's changed in classrooms? What's better? What's stayed the same? And what's the hope for the future?
I do feel like the idea that we're just teaching sports has shifted significantly. I mean, there's been a lot of hard work put into, understanding that sometimes it's just the exposure that's needed or wanted from some students. I liked learning about specific sports at the time. But right now, as an educator, I love when we can make things up and be creative, right? So I think that's shifted, where we have a little bit more student voice, which is hard, because I come from a generation where you just do what the teacher says and we dump all of this information into you. So I think that's a great shift because now kids have to use skills that perhaps weren't as developed for, I think about myself in terms of those problem solving strategies, critical thinking. And I think that's a really, really good thing.
One of the conversations I know we have as parents, which is something that maybe hasn't changed enough, is our daughter will often come home and say to us, we played dodgeball today. At least once a week.
Everybody loves dodgeball.
We're playing dodgeball. And maybe dodgeball is fun, and maybe it's the game of choice. But it is the only game where humans are targets.
With things at each other.
And so, with my Ophea hat on,
yes.
I will say that's not an emotionally safe game. But it makes me think that, do we care today whether or not the gym is an emotionally safe space? Do we care enough about that?
Do we care? Yes.
Do we care? Does the profession care?
I can't speak for the profession. I do. I think that there are places that are trying. I mean, if I didn't believe that, I don't know that I would be going back to school. I don't know that I would want to go and work with teacher educators. We care enough right now to have a Black educators pathway, Black teacher educators pathway, because there aren't enough racialized teachers in schools. We need to have more males at the elementary panel so that we can see how we can occupy, masculine and feminine traits and share that with kids so that they're okay talking to humans and not being put into boxes. So I think people care, maybe not all the people, but you surround yourself with the people that do. And hopefully, you create a small army, not a great choice of words, but you just create a community that will advocate for change.
And maybe, because I know we like to think about things not in black and white, and so maybe it is okay to play dodgeball once a week.
Not maybe.
Maybe there's some, I don't know, maybe there's some enabling conditions that make that a little bit emotionally safer, or maybe it's just fun, but as long as it's couched with other things, it's okay, and I can bring myself to compromise on that. But change is tricky, I guess, is what I'm realizing as we're having this conversation. And it's not everything's out and everything new is in, but rather some things we drag along with us.
Yeah. And I'm joking with the dodgeball, of course. I think it can be played, but also definitely understanding, why are you choosing that game? What are the kids getting out of that game?
And it's not just whipping the ball at Billy because we hate him.
Yeah. And we can do targeted practice in other ways, like put the cones down. So I digress. We could talk about that
all day
at another time. So thank you.
Thank you, Dee. It's been a pleasure. This episode was hosted by me, Tammy Shubat, and was produced by Mike Meehan. Our theme song and music was written and performed by Ron Kelly. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. Your support helps us grow and reach more educators, students, and changemakers. Until next time, let's keep moving, questioning, and creating space for every student to thrive.